All right, welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're unpacking a really fascinating blueprint all about scaling wealth through leverage. Look, if you've ever felt like you're just endlessly running on a treadmill, putting in absolute maximum effort every single day, but somehow barely moving forward financially, then this is for you. The sources we're diving into today strip away all that confusing noise and focus purely on the actual mechanics of how money grows. So, I want to kick things off with a question that completely challenges the traditional financial advice practically all of us grew up hearing. What if working harder simply isn't the secret to becoming a millionaire? We're so conditioned to believe that the amount of literal sweat equity we put into our day directly matches the numbers in our bank accounts. But think about it. If that were mathematically true, the hardest working people on the planet would inherently be the richest. And as we all know, that just isn't the reality. It really boils down to capped versus uncapped leverage. When you compare someone trading 14 grueling hours of physical labor a day against someone else who spends just a few hours building systems, investments, and digital assets, the glaring difference is infrastructure. Person A is capped by their physical endurance and the fact that there are only 24 hours in a day, period. But person B, they're building an engine. They are creating infrastructure that operates totally independently of their time. Which brings us to Chapter 1, the Great Wealth Myth. We have to draw a massive line in the sand between creating income and creating wealth. Hardworking delivery drivers, factory workers, construction crews, these folks are absolutely the backbone of society. But traditional hard work mostly just creates linear income. You work an hour, you get paid for an hour. Smart work, on the other hand, creates scalable wealth. The ultimate goal of your labor should be to produce an appreciating asset, not just a paycheck. This isn't about working less. It's about reallocating your energy toward the right outcomes. Let's dive into Chapter 2, the wealth formula. Okay, so here is the actual math. Income plus investments plus time equals wealth. A high income all by itself that can easily evaporate through lifestyle creep if you aren't super careful. The blueprint from our sources outlines that you absolutely must leverage your initial capital into investments and then step back and allow time to act as the multiplier. Your assets have to generate yield, and that yield has to compound. That is the exact mechanism of how net worth scales independently in the background. Moving right along to Chapter 3, Stop Selling Time. The fatal flaw of an hourly wage is what happens the exact second you stop working. Whether it's because of an illness, serious burnout, or hey, just wanting to take a vacation, your income plummets immediately to zero. When you are the primary engine of production, your output completely halts the second you power down. And that zero, that is the ultimate vulnerability in any linear income model. And this perfectly illustrates exactly why the source materials emphasize building things like digital products, media, and investment portfolios over just constantly begging for overtime. The goal isn't to work for money perpetually. No, the goal is to accumulate enough assets that your capital starts working around the clock. Assets literally don't need to sleep. They don't take weekends off. They operate continuously, completely decoupling your earning potential from your waking hours. Next up, Chapter 4, Learn High-Income Skills. Now, you don't necessarily need some fancy traditional degree to build these systems, but the source material does point to the absolute necessity of specialized knowledge. We're talking about things like sales, marketing, AI, programming, content creation, copywriting, and business strategy. Mastering just one of these creates a completely asymmetric return on your time. It vastly increases the value of your inputs into that wealth formula we talked about without demanding more hours chained to a desk. All right, Chapter 5, The Power of Leverage. Here is where the math gets really exciting. Leverage is all about unlinking your inputs from your outputs so that one single action creates a massive, scalable result. Think about it. If you write a piece of code or establish a digital system once, it can be utilized by an unlimited number of people. The initial input is finite, but the outcome? It's infinitely scalable. You are no longer constrained by the physical limits of your own two hands. And leverage neatly breaks down into 4 specific pillars. First, you have technology, like apps and AI. Second is media, meaning videos and content. Both of these are infinitely reproducible with practically zero marginal cost. Then you have capital, which is basically using money to make more money through investing. And finally, people, which is building teams to execute your vision. The most robust, powerful wealth architectures analyzed in our sources actually combine several of these at the exact same time. Which takes us to Chapter 6, Multiple Income Streams. You want to create a whole ecosystem, a financial structure where your primary job income, maybe some freelancing, your investments, a YouTube channel, online stores, stock dividends, or even real estate, are all flowing simultaneously into your central accounts. If one sector takes a hit, or heaven forbid your day job just disappears tomorrow, it's an inconvenience, not a total catastrophe. Why? Because those other streams just keep flowing. You are essentially building a financially bulletproof foundation. Chapter 7. Invest consistently. When you look at the trajectory of compounding, those early years can feel almost imperceptible, like nothing is happening. But then, the compounding takes over exponentially. The source material highlights a massive behavioral mistake people make: waiting until they have some huge lump sum of cash to begin investing. The actual secret? It lies in frequency, consistency, and just giving time the massive runway it needs to do the heavy lifting for your portfolio. Let's look at chapters 8 and 9 together, thinking like an owner and avoiding wealth killers. The texts outline this vital psychological shift you have to make. You have to move away from the employee mindset, where you're just waiting around for an organization to recognize your worth and hand you a raise. Instead, you need to adopt the owner mindset. Owners focus on one thing: how to deliver massive value at scale. They engineer systems and solutions that naturally attract capital because they solve widespread problems. But listen, while you're busy building all that scalable value, you have to be hyper-vigilant against these deadly wealth killers. Think of them exactly like holes in a leaking bucket, actively draining away your progress. Lifestyle inflation is definitely the sneakiest one. You get a raise, so you immediately upgrade your car, and suddenly your brand new income feels just as tight as the old one. Add excessive debt, gambling, impulse purchases, and constant consumerism to the mix, and you are totally sabotaging the equation. You absolutely have to plug the holes before you try to fill the bucket. Finally, Chapter 10, The Millionaire Roadmap. When we assemble all the pieces from the source material, this incredibly clear, actionable 6-step roadmap emerges. Step 1, learn a high-income skill. Step 2, systematically increase your earning power. 3, create multiple diverse income streams. 4, invest regularly. 5, build scalable systems and assets. And 6, stay consistent. Now let's be real, it is not a rapid get-rich-quick scheme. Not at all. It is highly methodical, and it requires intense focus up front before transitioning into a structure where your assets eventually carry the weight for you. Smart work, consistency, and time. This final equation completely replaces the old myth of the endless physical grind. Because think about it. If you fast forward 10 years from right now, you are inevitably going to be one of two things: either the machine that powers someone else's wealth, or the architect of your own. So which one are you going to start building toward today?